hanging out with Palidore today. Palidore is a member of Team Eclipse, and we're just going to chat a little bit about the upcoming ESL tournament. It's going to take place in Poland. That's the World Finals for the game Echo Arena, which is a virtual reality game that is normally played on the Oculus Rift. So, Palidore, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Sick, but I'm otherwise in good spirits and ready to roll with this interview.
Ready to roll for the interview. That's awesome. Okay, so Peldor, I believe that if I'm not mistaken, your team was one of the earliest teams formed. Is that correct? Whenever we began making teams for the esports league, and you
Insane
guys
along.
have done very, very well in the tournament.
I like to think so, yes.
Well, most of the time, you
Uh,
guys have been consistently in first place, correct?
yeah, so far we haven't lost a series yet. We've lost a few matches now, individual matches, but as far as a full 2 out of 3 series, we've not lost yet.
You also have iShiny and Lemming on your team,
That I do.
and so your
When we got together,
teammates.
it
Go
wasn't
ahead.
just a case of us, thinking we're 3 of the top, 5, 6 players or whatever at the time. It was more so, I mean, that was a factor, but our play styles are very complementary to each other. With Lemming being, at least at first, I mean, we've evolved since then, but at the very beginning, Lemming was really like the number one, and still is number one versus one guy in Echo Arena, in my opinion. And iShiny was one of the best brawlers, and I'd like to think of myself as kind of the passer, facilitator, midfielder, stuff like that. But we've kind
Right.
of evolved in our roles since then, and it's a nice dynamic.
Now, a lot of the players I've talked with have talked about the injuries they've incurred or different things that, they've lost weight or whenever they're trying to work out and stuff and they're sweating like crazy. So, how would you define this as an actual sport versus just some computer game you're out there playing?
No, well, unlike, I guess, most video games, Echo Arena and with VR in general, you're very active. It's full body sport where you're jumping, crouching, reaching, grabbing, turning, spinning, throwing, and punching. All these physical activities at once, um, which is different from the traditional esport where you're just in a chair and kind of bound to the confines of a computer desk. It's really like playing. It's like going out to the park and playing your favorite team sport. Basketball or football or soccer or anything like that.
Sure,
Playing
absolutely.
Echo Arena pretty much fills that gap for me.
Yeah, and have you actually yourself had any injuries from all the different activity that you've had while playing the game?
Oh yeah, I've had my share of bumps and bruises and scratches just from punching things or from the constant repetitive throwing motion. Same kind of thing that like tennis players with tennis elbow or pitcher's elbow for baseball players. When you're doing the same kind of motions over and over the course of dozens or hundreds or thousands of hours, stuff like that can wear on you. So I had my share, but nothing too serious besides,
Oh, that's good.
just bruises and strains
Right,
and
right.
a cracked finger, but
Oh,
it's
no.
fine.
That's a minor
It's
injury
fine.
for this sport, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, what are your plans for Poland? I understand your team does get to go to Poland. You guys got the first place spot at Nationals back in California in October. So
At
that
Oculus Connect 4, we took first place at the regional tournament, and that guarantees you a entry into Poland automatically.
how do you think you're going to do in Poland? Do you think you're going to be ready to compete against the top European teams?
Yeah, ready as we could be, I think. I mean, we're ramping up the practice schedule now, my team, and I'm just making sure we're staying on top of our game. We're pretty confident that we'll do well, but we can't rest on our laurels, so just do our best to stay on top.
Do you think there will be a difference in competing against the European teams and trying to counter their skills versus the skills that you've pretty much mastered with the North American teams?
I think one of the biggest differences playing them it'll be the first time we actually get to play them without lag in the way, so that'll be interesting on its own. I know from what I understand and from what I've seen too, European players do have a tendency to shoot more long shots and um, be good at those ones, but I think North America, it's generally regarded that we have the better brawling capability. So it'd be interesting to see how that meshes, especially defensively, because against European players, you don't know, can you leave the goal open or are they going to hit those half court shots on you? Good news for us is that all 3 of us, compared to where we were when we first started as a team, I think we're all really excellent brawlers now. I know that was probably my weakest point when the game first came out, but I would say now it's one of my strongest points. I would say ever since the Chronos patch back in November for Echo Arena, where they change up the joust,
Right,
there's
right.
not as much dedicated defense or midfielding going on. Like it still happens, but it's a lot more about being active and one-on-one on defense sometimes, and you know,
Yes.
striking the balance between when to be at goal and when to be on a man near half court and things like that.
And
So
you
it's a
guys,
bit of a more dynamic game now, I think.
well, Palidore, thank you so much for getting together with me today. I appreciate you doing the interview. Sorry we had some fans out there trying to get
We'll
with
shake
you
our
and
hands for the
and
fans. Hello.
trying to interrupt our interview a little bit, but it was good to know that you have a following, and so I appreciate you doing the interview, and I wish you the best of luck in Poland.
Thank you. Yeah, that interview was straight fire. Good stuff.
Yeah, I know I accidentally pushed my button. All right, Palidore, thanks a lot.
All right.